Hello, my beloved MaateCast listeners. This is Christian from the future here. Just letting you know that I duffed the audio. Yeah, I duffed the audio on this episode. I didn't properly click record on our guest's mic. So we've resorted to half our mic, half the camera built-in mic for this episode. So the quality's not there, but I do encourage you to still give it a listen, give it a go. It is a good podcast. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Thank you for dealing with my unprofessionalism.
Welcome to the pod, Matt. You're watching or listening to the MaateCast.
Come on. I mean, once I think about it, I've got it.
It's actually just like a little bit of tilts.
I hate doing that. I try not to do
it's
it.
a highlight.
We noticed that the other day we were filming something and we were just like both doing this as we talked to each other.
This is when you need your lo-fi music on it.
Yeah.
There was one intro we had where we were like practically the same person doing it. It's so annoying.
Maybe I feel like we just did it.
Probably.
I'm here for it.
It's divine.
Welcome to the 11th episode of the MaateCast.
Thank you all for clicking and for seeing our last episode, episode 10. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't watched it, make sure you go and give it a watch or listen. Chris, who have we got on the podcast today?
Who have we got on the podcast? Well, if you're watching the podcast, you can see. But if you're listening, well, you're about to get a banger intro. It's coming in hot. Prepared, written, and it's really good. On the MaateCast today is our ex-English teacher, the mum of most of our grade, and she once wrote a song for us saying that she'll be with us forever after we leave school. And look at her now. She wasn't lying. Today she joins us on the MaateCast to continue speaking into our lives and now yours. We have the wonderful Emma McLachlan, or Ms Mack, I don't know. Welcome to should have said mum. Welcome to the podcast. It's a ritual to shake hands.
It's so good to be here. It was really weird. I've never done that.
No, I've never. I don't think I've ever
Not one
shook your
time
hand.
ever.
But it's like ritual to shake, I feel.
Not a cult.
Not a cult. Not a ritual, because it's not a cult.
Gosh darn it, we're supposed
Alright, we can burn the children later. What?
What? Cut that! Okay, Miss. I'm going to call you Miss.
Okay.
How's your day been today?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Wild.
Wild? It is a weekend today, we're filming this, so what do you do on weekends when you're not teaching, I guess?
I avoid reality at all costs.
Mm.
Okay, how can we find a way to not be an adult who's responsible for other people's lives?
Because you are responsible for a couple little lives.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
But they're pretty good, you know, they do their own thing.
Mm.
Mostly at the park, they're pretty responsible.
True that. Give them food and then let them run off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is not too far.
In eyesight.
Well, yes, yeah.
I mean, there's no fun if you can't, you know.
Today we were picking up pine cones and the kids ran off like, they had the wagons, you know, the wagons that you see all the kids in. No, we got all the pine cones in the wagon and Ben and Lily were like, quick, we've got to get away from Mum, we've got to beat it. And they literally,
That's it.
no, highlight though was that was the journey back to the car, up the hill. I didn't have to carry that bad boy. Or either of them. It was ideal.
Nice.
Absolutely ideal.
It is.
They set themselves up for that one.
It was so good. Yeah. Oh, we just do things like that. We go to the beach a lot. We hang out with family. When I have the guts to clean and do the things that I've got to do as an adult. I do that.
Adult responsibility kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Fun. But you are, I mean, as I said, a teacher. For people, I feel like most people watching this probably know who you are.
Yeah,
So like, I'm
likely.
like, do I do like an introduction on what you do and who you
Well,
are?
honestly, you made me sound like such a creeper. I was like, she made a song for us.
Yeah.
She would be with us.
I was
like,
thinking,
And now she's here.
when I wrote it, I was thinking like, if people don't know you, it's gonna come off a bit creepy.
Bit creepy. It was not just for you two, though.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For the entire grade.
Yeah, for all 75, 80 of us.
Yes.
No, there were 69 of you.
What?
Yes. 69.
Oh, yeah.
That's my joke.
Yeah.
Too.
No, but like, we started the year with over 70, I think.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
78 at the beginning.
Oh.
Yeah.
We lost
At
9.
No, at the beginning of year 11, so when you guys headed into senior.
For 2 years, we lost, quite a lot.
hemorrhaging
No, we did. We
humanity.
did. But we all came together in the end. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we got there.
Yeah.
What should we get into?
Well, there's a few things that I wanted to ask about.
Oh, no.
I don't know where to start, to be honest.
Pick one when we
Oh, we should ask you about Rhett and Link.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
yeah.
could ask, we'll go there first. So, well, firstly, did you, how many podcasts did you listen to?
I think I've listened to probably 6 now.
Wow.
And I've just kind of picked and chosen as I've gone.
Yeah, it's got to be most of them, I feel. So I'll give context to this. I mentioned it a couple podcasts ago, but we were talking about, I don't know what we were talking about, just spirituality in general and where we were at personally.
Yeah, that was in the Tim episode.
Yeah, that was ages ago now. So update. I watched these guys, Rhett and Link, if you know them, Good Mythical Morning, and to sum it up, actually you'd probably sum it up better than
No,
me.
do it. Go. This is your show.
The problem having an English teacher on the show, it's like,
I was wondering if the intro was spell checked.
yeah, I was literally I wanted to make jokes about how, or intentionally make it bad.
Oh,
No.
intentionally.
Yeah, so these guys, they were Christians for their whole life, and then they got to, I forgot how old they were.
I thought it was 34 or something.
Yeah, early 30s, I think. They started to slowly deconstruct their faith, and then now they're at a point where they're just completely away from Christianity, and one of them is more open and kind of more spiritual than the other. But I remember when I listened to, so they made podcasts about it every year, updating where they were at, and when I listened to it, I was very intrigued by it, because I hadn't really heard stories of people that were so devout Christians and then went away from it,
Yeah.
but then were still kind of just normal guys or still doing good, and I don't know, seemed pretty stable. So it intrigued me and made me question a bunch of things. And then I asked Ms Mack about it, and she listened to some of the podcasts, and I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
And we thought, hell yeah, it'd be such a good
Really
combo
good
to talk
talk
about
about
it on the podcast. So here we are. It's here. Where do I even start? Well, what are your thoughts on it to begin with? Just if I, where do you think from an outside perspective what they've gone through and what they've talked about going through? Is it have you seen it before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody who has a really full experience of life goes through a deconstruction of some kind.
Yeah.
And whether that's exclusive to spirituality or it's a deconstruction of a belief system that you have, understandings of where you belong in the world or just how you see yourself fitting. If you consider the midlife crisis that's so readily available to us in media, that's essentially what goes on. And if you look through all the psychology texts, it's a whole bunch of stuff about the dark night of the soul. And it's when you go through and you question who you are. You question how you came to believe what you believe. Is it real? Is it true? And for some people, it's far more subtle of a shift. And what I went through, I think, was a far more subtle shift when I went through a deconstruction. It was more about, am I leaving enough space for God to be who He is, rather than who I want Him to be or who I'm comfortable with Him being. Whereas a lot of people go through a deconstruction, and it's, is this what it was, or is it something else? And we make it a polarity or a binary opposition kind of thing, rather than being okay with existing in the many shades of grey. More than 50. At least 51.
51 shades of the grey.
It's a holy shade.
So do you think... Oh, you timed it, sorry. Do you think that... what was I going to say? The reason they... what was it? I had the thought as you talk. Why they... did they have, the wrong perspective of what God was, and that led them to kind of, or, it wasn't what they... they had a perception of God, and then slowly it didn't or they started to realize it didn't align with what their perception was, like what God
Yeah, well,
actually
I still think if you listen quite carefully to their journeys and how, like, across the multiple years that they've been doing the updates of their deconstruction of faith, you kind of hear this progression that it's not linear, and it was more about that maybe their original faith had been about God and about Jesus and about miracles and spirituality, but then it kind of drifted into being about religion and about church and about programs and about, are we there at 9:30? Kids, get in the car. And it's really hard to see holiness and beauty and wonder and everything that God says that He is in His Word in the church and in its structures. And so if you confuse God with church, you're literally diluting all-powerful God into something that is flesh and sin-bound and broken, and it promises death. Like humanity is going to end. We all are finite. You're trying to fit the infinite into a finite.
So over there, like deconstruction, it became more of a religion than faith.
Well, I think that was their construction. They were constructing their faith.
Other way around.
And so, and that was the build up. And so you do get to a point, either in age or through life circumstances, where you sit back and you go, man, how am I spending my time? Children are a really, really great filter for the way you spend your time, because you have so little that actually belongs to you, and so little energy, and so it sounds really horrible, but you kind of become, I'm going to call it an essential form of yourself rather than a shell of who you used to be, but that's kind of what it becomes, especially when they're young. And I hear that through the guys' journeys, like it's is this God of the universe requiring X, Y, and Z of me? Really? Because that's what I'm being told.
That's my dad.
Hey, Dad.
Should I answer it?
Damn it. What's her face on
Father
it?
Ryanthelegend.
Hey, you're on the body.
We're in the middle of filming a podcast and I didn't put my phone on silent.
It's actually ideal. Oh,
Please
yes!
play.
Get the footy.
I'll just be like looking at the score.
Christian did want background noise.
Yeah,
It's the footy.
To get more Aussie.
Alright, so I'm gonna watch it later, so.
Who's playing?
Broncos. Yeah,
Oh,
whatever. Bye.
Morgan?
Lovely. Sounds like
Broncos, Cowboys.
Oh.
That's right. Sorry.
I'm going to
Sorry.
pretend like I know whether or not that's going to be a good game.
It's gonna be
Wow. Give me pop for you. Yeah. Yeah, so just like watching through their experiences, you can kind of tell that something went a little bit awry in terms of like where they're invested. Honestly.
Every time.
Y'all are invested.
genetically the same. Fire it out.
Yeah, they seem like, from what I've heard, like, well, what was their church? Not their church. Their type of Christianity.
Oh, I forget.
I've been like saying it every time, but now all I'm thinking is Pentecostal, but that's not.
No,
that's what we are.
it was a little more. It was a little more structured.
Yeah, so it's their type was more structured to like rules almost. I feel.
I would say in theology. Like,
Yeah,
the theology was quite reformed.
Yeah.
almost, like, yeah.
And Link talks about one of the things that really got him, and it's kind of it was both, but I think like Link still is affected by it, and it was like the guilt,
Yes.
like all the shame and whatnot, and everything. So they felt like
Jesus died for. So like something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Something has gone wrong in the communication of faith there, and the people who've been leading them. The faith's been put into the people, not into the God who's, at the heart of it. And
it's a big question, I feel, because I think we all, to a certain extent, like are on that line of like, we've been forgiven, but then it's also like you don't want to do the wrong thing. And then you're gonna feel bad for doing the wrong thing.
No, exactly.
Is there like, how do you balance that? I mean, I'm not expecting like an answer that's
Good.
obviously solve how we balance.
My daughter literally said, she's like, what are they even asking you? What are you about? I'm like, You know what? I'm not even sure. Yeah, balancing that. I think it really comes down to, without sounding Christianese, is a really solid understanding of who God is for you, and what you're expecting of Him. Are you expecting Him to be impossibly good and impossibly kind through the midst of horrific situations? Then chances are that's what He'll show up as, because you've still put a boundary around it. You know, you've said, oh, He's going to be good, He's going to be kind, and it's going to end up okay. What if you had the concept that it's actually going to be spectacular, like if you could push it? Because then your guilt and your shame pales in comparison to His goodness.
Yeah.
Is the whole point. If you've got your eyes fixed, like if you're driving, right, and you're going, yeah, oh man, that KFC is amazing, let's go, your car will just start turning the drive-through.
Oh man.
You'll be there.
Too many times.
I've watched you do it.
We did it yesterday.
No, but seriously, it's where your eyes go, that's where you steer yourself.
Yeah, okay.
When you're walking, if you're looking at your phone, you're gonna bump into walls.
Yeah.
And so it's what's got your focus, and even outside of Christian principles, I reckon that's something that's a reality for people. Like if you have your gaze set on achieving something rather than all of the roadblocks in the way, then you're more likely to achieve. It's all that growth mindset stuff that you can look at in all psychology and neurology everywhere. Yeah, so I think it has a lot more to do with that. It's own your perspective and be careful with it. Like biblically, it also says that, like, you're in charge of your mind.
Yeah.
But I don't hear people teaching each other about that or calling accountability. It's something that I'm trying to teach a 6-year-old at the moment. Darling, you get to make choices about how you think and how you feel, and she just looks at me. Heard that one before now.
Yeah.
But it's true, and I'm watching her learn it, where she goes, I don't have to sit here and be grumpy.
Yeah.
And it sounds so small, but how much of what our experience in life is due to the choice that we make in terms of thinking or feeling and what we allow. Because if we're sitting there going, I'm going to just allow everything to happen to me, it genuinely is a victim stance, and so you kind of don't get the best out of it. I'm trying to make the link to that shame and guilt kind of thing, but it's the shame. If you're sitting there just letting it happen to you, you're not making any choices, so you can't really be shameful or guilty. But then if you go and make all these active choices and you get it wrong, that's where you kind of get this guilt mentality coming in.
Yeah.
And so when you have tried and you have failed, often that's where you're going to end up with your dark night of the soul, and you're going to be questioning. So if you have invested in a version of God who is smaller than who He is in reality,
Yeah.
you're going to end up with only the version and amount of God that you've allowed.
Yeah.
So if the version that you have is a God who can't forgive you, a God who can't handle you being imperfect, then that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, very, very good point.
Yeah, okay. So it's like, I get what you were saying before, that your perception of God, like, you need to see Him as the big God who, like, has forgiven you for all these things, and, like, it just is better than anything that you could imagine.
Yeah, and it's that radical acceptance of you exactly as you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to show up and be perfect. You don't have to show up and be even any good at anything. Like, the amount of times people are talking, I love the way you pray. I'm like, but if you heard me in private, all you'll hear is me being like, help. There's no eloquence about it. There isn't anything significant to it. The best prayers, the most significant prayers that I have prayed have been like three words. No longer than 3 sentences ever. Been like, God.
Help.
Yeah, truly. When I've run out, I've come to the end of my capacity, and it's where that I have to make that leap. And this is where faith comes into that acceptance of forgiveness and all of that sort of magical stuff that people aren't ready to experience.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the biggest struggles, I think, is like being able to fathom that you're already forgiven for the things that you've done, in a way. So it's like, I yeah, definitely can see it being a massive thing. But also, I wanted to know, where does that fit in within a church? And where do you draw the line between, I go to church because I have a faith and because I want to praise God, or would you say it's almost, not better, but would you rather seek God in a more personal and more intimate way? More independent, I should say.
I don't find that those two are mutually exclusive, and I feel like God calls us to both. You know, there is so much in the word that says, speak directly to the Father. You know, like go and seek Him out for yourself. Yeah. That's Jesus' point. Is the whole point of Him coming is that we don't have to go through church to get it. But even in the New Testament, He says, "Do not forsake meeting with others." You know, when two or more are gathered together, I am there in their presence. You know, I'm there in their midst. There is something sacred that happens when people come together and they're actually giving a toss about what God wants for the moment. Yeah. And there's something significant about the fact that the God of Jacob, Israel, all of these phenomenal human beings who are also phenomenally flawed, if you look at every single one, He didn't find one that was perfect. He's used all of these fantastically flawed humans to be part of His masterpiece to show Himself off. These people that He's picked kind of draw you closer into that idea that you can sit back and breathe. Yeah. You can just rest on the fact that He's enough, instead of having to think, I've got to go to church. And so then all these people throughout the ages have never forsaken meeting together, because there's something special that happens when people come together. And I feel like that was a really long-winded way to say that.
No, that's good.
No, yeah, it really is good. It's been, like, recently I've tried steering away from churches just altogether.
It's tricky.
Not even because I don't like them or because I don't think they're a good thing. It's more, I don't want to rely on a church to then pray and to then seek out God.
I totally get that. Like, I feel like that's it's almost like that's a growth phase that you go through as a Christian as well. And you do have to recognise that and not even just as a Christian, as a person. Yeah. Like, you go through these different developmental phases. And when you're a baby, like, we have them all, like, stepped out. You can read the books on parenting of what to expect in this 6 months and then developmentally of this. That continues for your entire life. And if you go and look for the studies, you'll find them. Like, why did I love sugar when I was a kid, but now drinking Fanta makes me want to spew? Like,
exactly.
Let's do it. There you go. Yeah, you're offended. They just, I don't know if they changed the recipe, but no, thank you. I feel like that face that I just did should probably be part of your intro.
That's thumbnail.
Yeah.
You're welcome. But I think it's really significant to give yourself enough space in that and grace that what you see in other people, especially with social media these days, can so much be the highlights reel, and we hear that all the time. But the reality of that for us, and just how much it sinks in, we have created an expectation for ourselves of what we think is the norm, and then what we want to be, and those who might be different or they might be the same. And so then in terms of church, we've created this idea that I don't actually think, controversial opinion, I don't actually know that God agrees with how we do church. Because the whole point of the church is that it's His bride, broken and battered and imperfect. I have no idea how to do it right, but I know that it starts with conversations like this, things that are significant, things that are real, things that are true, things that are beautiful, things that cause us to wonder, things that cause us to push deeper and further and consider more openly. Because I didn't really see Jesus showing up to a Sunday service too often. Most of the time He was hosting. And if we're going to model ourselves after that, I'd say it's, come along with me on my journey. I'm heading in this direction. Let's see if we can hang out with 5 people this morning, 500 people, 5,000 people. Like, let's see what happens. And I do think that there is a place for the institution that is church. The structures that we have in place that then can reach community members that are suffering, that are in need of structure.
There it goes.
Like this guy. There's a place for that. But similar to you, I'm actually in another phase of struggling with where I fit in church.
Literally, yeah. I don't know.
It's hard.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. I don't know. Like I've tried like a fair few churches, and I've been to a fair few over my time, and it's been. And like one thing that I've talked to you about and Hannah about as well is like I don't actually almost trust in a church. Like
absolutely.
I find it really hard to sit there and like not I guess believe in what they're saying, but also like I just feel like it's so forced at times. I'm like I shouldn't be here like sitting and listening to him to get something out of it and to like believe, like I should be sticking it out on my own accord, which is what I've been trying to do.
If you consider baby Christians who need to be taught how to read the Bible, or how, not that you can literally be given one page of it and it's amazing. There are people who've discovered Jesus without a Bible even. Oh my goodness. Because the word says that the rocks themselves cry out, that the sons of men may know the Father. It's innate within all of creation that it is crying out and speaking of His glory and speaking of the goodness. And if He wasn't God, then it wouldn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah.
And so then once you're past that point of that base level of discovery, and like we're talking those phases. You need milk, you need people to cradle you, you don't know how to walk. It's a bit crazy. You need tenderness, you need some intense community, you need lots of leadership over you. And then, I don't know, it's almost like going through your teen phase. Where you're going, I'm establishing myself a little bit more in my thinking, in my spirituality, in my practices, and this is where discipline happens. This is that season where instead of going out and getting crazy in a million other people's opinions, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to distill this. I was 16, so I need to give a little bit of context here. My dad has a really strong prophetic gifting, and so we'd been to over 150 churches, but there were mornings where my dad would be like...
By the time you were 16 or like...
Yeah, by the time I was 16,
wow,
for sure. But when there was one morning I remember, I was about 10, we woke up and Dad was getting us into the car like 7 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, we've got to go. God's telling me where we've got to go. Literally, before maps existed, and you have a Refidex, you pass it to the woman, be like, that wasn't really what happened. No, but my dad was not using a Refidex. He was literally listening. Turn right here, turn left here, turn right. And he knew God had given him this picture of where I needed to go. It took us to this industrial estate in the Sunshine Coast, and I'm literally like, what is going on here? Like, Dad, you want crack? No. You can be for sure. We drove in, we got out of the car, and you could hear worship music, and I was like, this is crazy. He knew exactly which building to walk into, and like he'd speak, and people would literally manifest under the weight of the glory of God that would fall. So that was my experience as a kid of watching church. Church was not a static thing for me for a really long time. Like it was watching a man with a really powerful anointing go and outwork that. Wherever he went, whenever he had free time, like just all the time. And that morning in particular was on the way there, Dad had told me that you're going to need to lead worship this morning. You need to, and I'm 10. I'm like, what? And he'd found this song by Mary Mary. Woo! Yeah, too old for you guys to even know what that is. You might know that song, like the shackles of my feet so well contained. No.
Oh.
Yeah, they wrote that song. But other songs from their album, he's like, this is the one song. I'm like, I don't have any instruments, I can't do anything, like, what's going on? He's like, we just need to get up and we just need to sing it. And you need to sing it, and then your mum and I will sing with you. And this 10-year-old girl in a church of people I have never met before, that my dad has literally just from the back of the church as they've started spoken a word and everyone starts crying. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sing now. But like, I watched the peace of God come and fill that place, and it, in such a powerful and tangible way, that I was like, there is something going on here, right? That's different to your normal church Sunday, and they needed it. We have no idea what happened after that, because we packed up after, we stayed for lunch, but then we packed up and off we trotted and back to Brisbane and off to the next church. And then after a while, my dad actually, he got a word that he needed to go to a Samoan church. And so we went to a Samoan church for 7 years.
Wow.
Where the services were spoken and sung in Samoan. Some songs were sung in English, but there wasn't a translation. And there was a time in each of the services where my dad would be able to get up and share prophetic words, and sometimes they were willing to just go with whatever the Spirit was. And so if what my dad got that morning was sufficient as a message, they'd be like, okay, we'll cancel the message. And just And I see that and that adding to my experience of what church is and going, that makes more sense.
It's just a good community to come to and just be in the presence and let it lead you.
But then when I was 16, God was really calling me out into the season I think that you're in probably right now, where it was just like, this doesn't fit anymore. And I'd been 15, I had started the youth group for the Samoan church. We'd grown it from 5 kids to 100.
Gosh.
And then I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go. But yeah, it was awesome. The leader who was there was just fantastic, and she took over. She actually is a part of IC Church, and then she's gone over to Auckland now, and she's phenomenal. Anyway, but yeah, so then I was called out, and I sat on my couch at home every Sunday morning because I'd said to Mum and Dad, this is not where I need to be. It feels wrong. I felt wrong in my own skin being there. I was like, I'm not getting anything from this anymore. This isn't where I need to be. I can't give more here. I've hit that glass ceiling of receive and give. Yeah. But my friend at school, one of my best friends, had been asking me every single day since year 8, can you come to my church? He was a pastor's kid. Like a cool one.
Yeah, they're all cool.
We know those, eh? Cool pastor's kid. And he invited me, and I was like, oh, wow, it's wild. Absolutely. I guess after 9 months of sitting on the couch, not hearing where I should go from God, I should really just give Tim's church a go.
Yeah.
And I went, really quickly was involved in the youth group. Obviously, I had a whole bunch of skills there in building and administration stuff. And the natural skill set that I have belongs in what we have as the church, like service. I'm a good singer. I'm a good administrator. I'm good at organising events. I am good at talking to people. I'm great at mentor, like all the stuff that ticks the boxes.
Yeah.
I'm good at, and yet I felt like up to a season after being in that church and doing all of those things really well and loving it. Like I loved the church while I was there. I got to a new season and went, oh, feels wrong. Feels wrong I feel wrong in my own skin. And that's where I am now. I'm in a place where I'm going, I have all of these giftings and they do just slot perfectly into the church scene. Yeah. But I don't know if that's where I'm called. I don't know if that's true meaning. And I'm still struggling with that now in this space. Like I don't have answers for that, but what I do have is this ability to go, you know what, you're going to open a door, you're going to close a door, and what you've said is that I need to be in community. So that's what I prioritise. I've got people that I have conversations with, not all of them are in the church. A lot of them go to other churches. Some people I have in my world literally just to rub me up the wrong way, so I make sure that I'm keeping my eyes more open.
Yeah.
You know, like
I like that.
Yeah. You touched on, like, I guess your testimony, well, not your testimony, but you've touched on
bit of a
a
story.
bit of how you were brought up and what you kind of saw as a kid. I was wondering, like, for people, because I've thought this too, but for people that have, like, because you grew up seeing a lot, I imagine, and you saw the miracles, or you saw, like,
all the power
spirit moving,
gifting stuff, all the spirit.
Yeah, like stuff that you're saying your dad has done is like,
Haven't
so
even
you've
touched
seen
on it.
that.
Guys, gave you the PG version. We're good.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you've seen a lot. Did you like experience much personally? And for people that feel like they have seen it, but they haven't felt it personally enough, like what would you say to them? I don't know, like not encouragement, but how would they experience God, I guess, or like, I don't know, like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, they've
Yeah,
seen it
absolutely.
all, but they haven't had like a miracle happen to them, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, what would you say to like those kind of people?
Well, I would say one of the things that you need to examine is then the circumstance that you're in. So are you in need of a miracle, or are you demanding one? Because the word says, do not test the Lord your God. Like, you're going to get smitten, and not in that lovey-dovey kind of way.
Yeah.
But where he meets needs and he meets openness. I've had miracles happen in my world time and time again. What I know of even my friends who have also had miracles happen in their world, we forget. We forget his goodness.
Yeah.
We forget those things.
That's a big one.
It's crazy because it's not in our immediate feelings anymore. It's not right up in the front of our face anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not talking about it anymore.
Yeah.
And so where have you situated yourself to receive miracles? And if the miracle that you are needing is intimacy with God, why the heck are you going anywhere but on your knees in your room? You want intimacy, you invite him into that space. If you want intimacy, get vulnerable. If that's the miracle that you want, get vulnerable with God. It hurts God to be alone. I don't feel like I fit in. I don't belong. Go and do that alone. Wait for him to show up. He will, in a really powerful and really tangible way. I try not to make promises that I can't come through on, so he can make that promise. He shows up. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And if you're wanting to see power miracles, go to where the greatest need is. You know? Get around people who have legs that don't work and start praying. Go to the hospital. Get a bit wild.
True that.
You know?
Yeah.
In the youth group that I went to, the pastor's son, who was my bestie from high school, we grew in our youth group to be at a point where we were having healing ministry nights, and one of my very close friends, who I was talking to on the phone on the way here actually, he had a really strong healing gifting. And at one point we did see a girl who was in a wheelchair get up. He has seen multiple legs that were, different lengths grow out right in front of him. It's because you lean into where the space is, has been made for it.
Yeah, right.
Which is one of those things where we go, if I've got that gap in my world, God can fill it, but you actually have to let him. You can't, again, put a box around what that should look like. God, I've got a gap in my bank account. I would really love you to let me win lotto. I don't gamble. I don't put tickets in lotto. I don't buy tickets. I'd really love you to fill my car with fuel. Are you sitting at the gas station? And I think, no, you've driven to the desert. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
There's so much that just goes unnoticed, and you don't realize.
This is the gentle slip, right?
Yeah, and the blessings that you just don't see, and the miracles that you don't see. It's I think that's something that I've been praying about a lot as well. It's just I'm grateful that for what I have and for where I am, because there are things that you've done that I didn't see. I could have, something very bad could have happened to me recently, but I went in a different direction. It's I might not know that, but I'm grateful for stuff like that. It's stuff behind closed doors.
And how many car
makes sense.
accidents did you not have today?
Exactly. Yeah.
How many times did you not cut your finger off with the bread knife when you weren't looking because you wanted to see the message that came through on your phone? It's those little
that one
things.
sounded very
personal.
very specific. Something that happened
Down like that's happened.
Guys, I don't have time to look at my phone. No. I think on the flip side of that, though, like that's heavy. You know, that's really like, gotta do work. The other side of it is also just going to get into a space where you can have wonder. I think one of the things that happens in church, especially for Christians who are, you know, second generation, third generation Christians, I call them inheritors of faith.
Yeah.
Because it's like been passed down. And it's a worry as a parent who's been a Christian that my children are not going to carry their own faith, they're just going to inherit mine.
Yeah.
And it's just been wild watching that grow, but I'm watching how my children experience God, and some of the reading that I did a really long time ago, just about, like, if you observe a child, and God says that we should be acting like children, right, in our faith, how much time do they spend there going like this?
Yeah.
Not that that's not sacred and beautiful, it is, like, I'm a worshipper, you know this about me, but worship for children happens in play. Play takes its heart in imagination and wonder. And so if we don't have those as foundations of what we're seeking out in our day, we've lost touch with God. Because he is the most wonderful thing, and he is unimaginably good. He's past my imagination. I don't know about you, but I'm super competitive. If you tell me I can't do it, I want to. I can't imagine the bounds of his love. I'm going to try. I'm going to try real hard. I'm going to push really hard for that. And I think if you've lost wonderment with God, you're kind of disenfranchised, you're a little bit disenchanted, you're kind of a bit apathetic about it. Go and find a place that makes you feel something again.
Yeah, that's so good.
I don't know if you guys remember when you guys hit your first year 12 assessment, you had to give your speech.
Oh, yeah.
And in our class, I was like, feel something. You have to feel something. And it was something I was driving every single day.
Every lesson.
Every lesson.
You need to feel it.
I need to feel that you feel this. There is no point in you talking if you are a resounding cymbal. You're just a gong going off. It will mean nothing, and it will do nothing. It will accomplish nothing. But when you are passionate about things, if you've lost that, you're going to be so ambivalent. And I think the kids who do well in school are the ones who engage deeply. They feel things, they think things, they have opinions. Exhibit A and B, right? And
I did terrible for that assessment. Not terrible, but I definitely could have done better.
but you went in our
I
class.
didn't, I felt nothing.
We were
I
just
felt nothing, exactly. And there's someone there shaking you every day, being like, or something.
That probably would have helped.
Homeless.
Felt great for Macbeth though.
Yeah,
Felt
you
great.
nailed
Felt
that mock
great.
exam. I remember reading that through and being like, ta-da.
Oh, feels so good. Yeah, great feeling. Yeah.
Do you have something? I have something.
Yes, no, you have.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna come back to Rhett and Link.
Okay.
Well, kind of two things again. But like Rhett, more so Link's was like a lot of Gill and he had that thing. But Rhett was also, he started the deconstruction. He talks about because he like started, or like the foundation, his foundation. You know, you've probably already touched on bits of it, but he's very logical and facts and whatnot. So when he started finding out that like, or he started believing evolution based on facts, and he says that was like the first thing that he kind of did that kind of steered him in a different direction. But although he was Christian for a bit while he believed in evolution, but he talks about like facts and then historical facts and things like that kind of swayed him away. Like the Bible, like that swayed him away from what the Bible says because he now believes that things in the Bible, like they're not accurate to historical fact. So kind of, I was going to say like, do you know much about fact-wise, historical-wise?
Yeah.
Have you done like is that something you were interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a logic freak.
Yeah.
That has kind of been intercepted with this Holy Spirit who's like, let me interrupt that. Which is where I had my massive, like, oh, you're not the God I thought you were, kind of thing. At every stage of my life.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I like things to come in a neat box, and they don't. Ever.
Yeah.
but historically, the historical credibility of the Bible is one of the most credible texts historically, and it's been proven time and time and time and time and time again. And within the Bible itself, the ability for I actually have an infographic Bible that it talks about. It's got this one page that shows the correlations of the prophecies that happen in the Old Testament to seeing them come into fruition in the New Testament, or sometimes in the Old Testament themselves. And the cross-referencing of those things creates this freakishly intense arc that is just as a visual representation of the historical accuracy of the Bible that it refers to, because there's so many authors who are speaking specifically to the same thing again and again and again. That already creates credibility, but then you have the physical artifacts that we're continually digging up that prove again and again.
Why do you think someone like Rhett, because I'm sure there's plenty, like, why do you think they, or I don't know, like, because obviously they believe that this is a fact and it disproves it, and then there's others that like say, like what you're saying, that it is, like, it's been proven multiple times. What is the difference? Like, can that be answered? Or is that just a personal...
No, I do think, look, one, that we can blame the algorithm of Google. When you search consistently, they're going to, they're not trying to get you off track. They're trying to, the algorithm actively wants to firm up your neural pathways. So then you come back to it as a trustworthy source. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And so if you're not examining the sources that you're using for their veracity, it's already going to be filtering things that you want.
This would have been really helpful in ancient history.
Mine's
really helpful. We examine sources.
Oh yeah, true.
I actually took an ancient history class yesterday as a cover, and I was like, oh man, I love teaching history. I miss it so much. But it's fine. But yeah, I think that's step one. And I think if you are looking for it, that's what you're going to find.
Yeah.
Because again, back to your perspective, you are boxed into what this is. It is very, very, very difficult to keep your mind open. It is harder to be faith-filled than it is to be faithless. In the current world, and in the Western world particularly, I think we have the curse of abundance. There is so much readily available to us. Where do you need a point of miracle? And where do you have reliance on?
You can just jump from thing to thing.
We are if you live in Australia, you're in the top 5% of the richest people in the world. Like,
quite literally.
good on you.
Yeah.
Cruising, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's not a reality check that people take, and not that they live in Australia, they're American, but similar sorts of things. They're not quite as chill. We have free healthcare, so
we do. It's living the dream.
a win to us. But I think there's a number of elements to that but it does hinge on, if you're looking for it, you're going to find evidence, but you're also going to actively deny and exclude other evidence.
So it's kind of just, like, if you could, I guess, say that to him, would you say it is just based off of, it is just a bit one-sided, like you are just excluding the evidence that is evident?
I would say, show me your evidence. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it would be fair to say, nah, it's just one-sided. We don't know that. And I think people's experiences are actually what convince them. It's not evidence.
Yeah.
It's your evidence that you've had that convinces you.
Which is like fair enough, but it's also like,
but
that's where the faith comes in.
Yeah, but it's also linking back to how forgetful we are.
Yeah.
Forget not all his good work.
That's what I question with Rhett and Link, is like, well, that's what was so fascinating to me, is that they've been brought up in the church. Yeah. So they've obviously, like, they would have seen stuff, like they had to have, or like,
Maybe.
I would, yeah, like, I don't know, but I'd think that they would have seen something, and because they were so into it, they might not have. But that was what I was thinking, was they probably saw something, so then it's like, and then to grow up, I guess, and I do believe, like, the forgetful thing, like, something might have happened ages ago, and it doesn't happen for a long time.
If it's not current, it's not relevant, and that's part of what we look at in source analysis too. the veracity of it continuously, are still a relevant source because things change over time.
Yeah.
And that's why the importance of, from day dot until after Jesus died, every story was proven by other sources and other people. And like there's this cross-referencing happening culturally, and it shows that you have got this currency about it that's building to a certain point. And I think where a lot of people then find it difficult is, but that was 2,000 years ago. Who's been writing since? Like, have you been writing it down? Because that's what the Holy Spirit said. I leave the Holy Spirit with you. You don't have to wait for the priests to write it down, the few chosen. The whole point is that it's more accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
So surely in those last 2,000 years we should have been writing a heck of a lot more about the goodness of God. Yeah.
That's deep. Yeah, it makes you wonder. Doesn't it, Millsy?
Nope.
Not at all.
Apparently not.
That's just mindless up there. No, yeah, that definitely does, and that is something that like I think, again, I'd say still struggle with is the hard evidence of it all, and like, does it all come into place, and does it all make sense? And like I guess if you could speak to them like Rhett and Link about it, like, I was interested to know what you would say, because obviously
Exactly what I was about to
like
ask.
obviously he's very fact based and very much on the evolution, is it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
like
like
multiple
science
things, but it's just where it's
version,
Yeah,
yeah.
that side of things. And it's like, how would you, if he asked you to convince him like back to Christianity, say, how would you try and go, or like how would you try and give your viewpoint on it to someone like that? Like not just him, but also people that, because there are multiple that are facing that sort of same thing.
So I'm not an evangelist by any means. I suck in this sphere, actually.
Sorry,
No, my approach is, from like even before starting that conversation, is if Jesus is who he says he is, I don't have to defend him.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't defend a roaring lion. This guy, if I am so steadfast in my beliefs, then all I have to do is walk in and make space and do what Jesus would do, which is relationship. I have to love. So my first response would be like, hey, teach me what you think.
Yeah. That's what I'm desperate. Because he mentions it, mentions why he believes, but like obviously doesn't go into detail. I'm like, I want you to go in detail so I can actually see.
Well, maybe you guys should do like
Imagine.
That'd be cool.
We should just tag him in this.
seriously, do it. No, because they are such cool thinkers, and I like the way that their brains work. And I think if you come from a foundation of respect, like I genuinely think I could learn from that conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if you're in that space, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's illuminating. I wonder how God's going to fill that gap. And I think that perspective in me is what keeps me readily faithful, because I go, someone's going to try and disprove it, just means you're going to show up in a more fantastic way than ever. Like, good on you. And I think, there's that ability to just like cut off when you're offered one fact. I look back at really Old Testament versions where you're like, I reckon whichever God can make this sacrifice burn faster, then that's the true God. And God's all about it. He's just like, man, I'm so bad. I'm so bad. Drench it in water even. It's fine, I'm so there. All about the impossible. And I reckon that's probably where I would ask questions, like if and when they're done sharing and I'm done learning, and I'm still at a point where I go, I don't feel the conversation's finished. I'll be like, where have you seen the impossible in your world? Because we've all seen it. Like God says in His Word that He pours Himself out on all humanity, like the good and the bad. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's got giftings. Everybody's got a piece of Him. Everyone reflects His nature in one way or another. Some of us are more significantly broken. But I would love to be like, hey, what is impossible in your world that has happened? Like, Did you get your house loan approved when you shouldn't have? Like, did you make ends meet when it was not going to happen? Did someone drop a food hamper off when you ran out of groceries and the bills went? You know, things like that.
Yeah.
And just be like, I dare you to count those up for 2 years. For the next 2 years, and I'll talk to you in 2 years' time. I think we're really in a rush to like force people into agreeing with us. But love is patient and love is kind.
Goddamn.
And so if you're sitting there, man, I'm not in a hurry, but I know that God is desperate for you. And if you're fully convinced of that stuff, you're not like, not that I'm saying that there's no need for evangelism. It's a calling, but it's not one that I'm called.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Again, my friend with the healing gifting, he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing in that space.
Yeah.
I've got a whole bunch of friends who are like, yeah, man, I'm all about it. I'm like, I can hold your baby.
Yeah, I feel like you're good at like, you know, just being a good example or like just being
being a real example, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. No, but you know what I mean. Like you are just, I mean, just better than the average person. No, okay, that's that is a bad cut it. Not the right wording there.
I like that we all just aborted that compliment.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
it was so kind, so kind.
Well, I just don't think, you know, it's just a bit of an unfair thing to say about anyone. But you know what I'm trying to say. You're just being a Christian. You show the values by the way you go about things day to day, and that is evangelism in a way. You know, like to some people, like it's not evangelism. You know, getting people.
Yeah, it's not aggressive.
No, but it works for some.
Yeah, I mean, I sent you that text not that long ago.
Yeah.
That
was
are you?
wild and made me
Oh.
cry.
Yeah. Oh, did it?
So much.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's such a good cry.
Well, yeah, I was just saying, like, not that you're, I don't know how to word it, but
better than everyone.
yeah, but you, in a world as crazy and as big as this one, it just feels like you're the example that should be set, and like you set such a good example of morals and values and beliefs.
Oh, I'm so broke.
that like.
I've made so many mistakes.
But that's what I think like aligns with that as well. With the the example that you set is it's not gonna be perfect. Like you are gonna stuff up.
Yeah.
I think that's why people like relate to you so much.
I saw a thing today and it's like growth isn't like linear. Yeah, it's like it's not a straight line, it's this, it's that, and it's like I think you just set that example so well, and I'm so thankful that we have someone like that in our lives, because it's like we can look to you and go, oh, okay, like we're not that bad. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, she really stuffed up. And God still loves her. Well, at least she's convinced.
Yeah, kind of. Well, not like that, but like, you know what I mean.
But absolutely like that. It's still wild to me that I get to, like, you know, it sounds cheesy, but I get to teach. I get to be that. But it is wild, absolutely wild, that there is a space where I get to hang out with people who I think are cool, people who are in the formative years of their life, and I'm at a school where I'm endorsed to actively invest in that. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing to have that freedom, and I think all the staff, but Mr. Morrison particularly, with his like vision for pushing stuff forward like that is just, and like releasing staff to do it. Like, there are so many things that I have done with you guys where we have pushed so deep into, like, even just the chats that we've been able to have in lunchtime, but like in classes where I've felt if I did this anywhere else, even in another Christian school, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to feel the freedom to do it. Like, I would have felt held back. But yeah, I think I feel so uncomfortable feeling like I'm doing well but I know that I'm forgiven, and I know that he loves me, and I know that he's good. And I only learned that when I was offering that to other people. You know? yeah, for sure. God loves you. That's fine.
Like,
Oh,
the more you
God
talk-
has to love me too.
yeah.
Jeez.
The more you talk, the more
Yeah.
you're like just setting the example. Like you're just making it
So I'll
obvious.
stop talking now.
I do think you fit perfectly into like.
Brisbane Christian College.
Yeah, well, yeah. If they're supporting what you're doing, then yes. But like, just as a teacher kind of role, or not kind of role, like literally teacher, like you are able to. Well, yeah. I just feel like your strengths and what you were talking about before,
Yeah.
like fit perfectly into
Mhm.
building relationship and building like students up, not only teacher wise, because you're very smart, like.
Sometimes.
Well, like, didn't you know if you want?
No, you're like incredibly
yeah, pretty smart.
like yeah.
Nice.
So then it's like, yeah, and then you put your attributes on top of that, and then it's like, just perfect. That's what one of my
God.
my questions was gonna actually kind of come from that was what. Well, I was gonna ask you what's the difference between you and other teachers that has allowed. Well, it's a bit of a weird question, but it was kind of just like, because other teachers at school were nice and we had a relationship with them and they were so good and supportive and whatnot.
Mm.
But it's like we haven't really talked to them after, Like, is
They're like
that...
our mums,
Yeah, exactly.
essentially.
Like
is what we're saying. Like, what made you different, and why was our relationship, like you with the grade, so, I guess, what's the word? Like different
Yeah.
and so much more.
And was it a conscious kind of decision?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I turned up, I met you guys when you were little year 8s. And I'm pretty gung-ho with my decision to love every human being if it's possible. Like, I'm gonna love you if I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that after you've experienced a wild kind of love from Jesus, that's who you become.
Mm.
But it's that when I met you guys, there was something going on in the cohort, and I came in at a really rough time of it. And again, it's my kind of competitive thing. Like, tell me I can't, I'm going to.
Mhm.
Tell me that this is hard, I'm going to make it look easy.
Yeah.
But honestly, yes, it was a choice for me. But then there was so much acceptance from you guys. Like, I remember yelling at a whole cohort of you guys because you started shipping people, and you started shipping teachers, and
Really?
yeah.
When was this?
Grade 8?
Year 8, man.
Yeah,
And
sounds about right.
it was crazy. And Mr. Caswell and I had to talk to you guys about this.
Some things went down.
It was crazy, honestly. But I remember talking very strongly, but what we had developed in our classes and in the times where we were all, I was teaching all of you English, and that was such a unique thing anyway. I had all of you as my actual students for English. That's unique in itself, and it's awesome. So getting to spend time, I knew all of you really well, and then I got to press in to be the bad guy, and you guys kind of all went just like, oh, we've been bad people. And I remembered this experience because I was like, oh wow, I feel like I went too hard. I need to reel back a little bit. But it was actually Sunday who came and was like, Miss, I just need to talk to you about it. The respect and love that I have for that girl is insane, because she was able to articulate where she's like, I actually really liked that you told me off about that. I was like, oh, okay, they're ready for more.
That's when you became the mum of the grade.
Yeah.
What was that? That would have been like, a term in, but
That's actually so true. Literally, like a term in, and you're telling yourself already. That sounds about right.
But it was the way that you guys had embraced. So your perspective of who I could be for you, same as our relationship with God and our relationship with other people. You had made space for me to be something other than the average bear.
Yeah.
Whereas if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't, like the cohort that I have now, I love them well, I work hard for it, but they haven't made the same space. And whether that's because we haven't had the same time or anything like that, who knows, it could be a myriad of things, but there was also the miracle that is Mr. Caswell. Like,
Amen.
that man loves to create fun, and he was in that space with you guys, almost like tilling the soil.
I remember him yelling at us as well.
Yeah.
That was actually like
He's-
very intimidating.
It is,
when he
because
did that.
if you made the funniest, happiest guy mad, like
Oh,
something was really
yeah,
wrong.
Yeah, it was sad.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
That
no,
was-
it actually was.
Yeah. There was one
I
time.
felt real. Was it when we were all in that? It was like English room,
Yes,
And
in
then-
E6,
and
and
then the
there's a
room
whole
next.
cohort. Yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
and like he just like
He
we
went
we
loose.
would not stop talking, and he just absolutely
He
belted it.
did that a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking of that time when we came in and he told me to sit next to Naya.
Oh, that is a good memory.
There was
Jesus.
this one time we were like going in and he told us beforehand to like not say anything, like, or he was just saying like,
So
come in
just-
quietly.
yeah, come
Like,
in
he was pretty stern about like coming in quietly. And for some reason, it was so like embarrassing in the moment because I like,
Oh, this
but
is
like
good.
I walk in and I like just was that kid and like intentionally made noises. And I was like, I
I
forgot,
remember
like,
you as that kid.
damn it. No, I was like, I don't know if this is what I did, but it was like I was doing like a monkey noise, you know, like
Of
I didn't
As
do
you
that,
do.
but it was like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
walking in. And he instantly just said like,
Go and sit.
Like yeah, yeah.
he,
Oh,
like,
you
said
said
my name or
right, next night.
Yeah.
And it was like
You actually just nailed that, like the thumb.
Oh,
I was like, wow.
he
that
nails
was
it.
right
it's
now.
He
well
literally
because
nails
he
it.
did it so often to me as well. He would go.
Oh my god, do you
You would
remember
just
our
do the-
20-minute segment deal that I made with you? I remember.
Oh yeah, because
Mills?
you moved me
Yeah.
next to
I don't even remember.
I don't know who it was, but I was like, you can't.
Yeah.
I can't be away from Chris or
Not me
Anna.
next to
I
Chris.
can't
But
do
I
it.
remember seeing the heartbreak in your eyes. I was
Like
oh,
literally.
This will literally murder me.
Literally.
Okay, we need to make another deal.
That was like I think it was like maybe a few weeks in when you started, and then like you moved me, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie.
I literally watched your whole body language
Like,
just
yeah.
shrink, and everything was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, I can't.
We're gonna make a different deal. You're gonna go work for 20 minutes, then you can talk for 10.
Yeah, yeah, and that.
But then you're gonna work silently for 20 minutes at every lesson, and he would get so much done.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think when you did tell us off with the multiple times that you did, but I think the first time it was different. I think because of that space that you had created,
Yeah.
like you said, and I think we all kind of took that into account, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we didn't just kind of brush it off our shoulder and go, oh, that was whatever, just being
Yeah.
told off. It was actually like, no, that was like.
This is significant.
That was like a mum yelling at me,
Yeah.
you know, like
she's hurt, she's disappointed.
yeah, like there was actually a lot of emotion in that, and I
Yeah.
think even us little turds, we were like, oh wow, okay, that was like we need to kind of dial
Yeah.
in a bit here.
But I also think that there was a really strong faith as a core within your cohort that's different to others. And I was kind of, even for, like, before you had, like, decided on becoming a Christian, like, there was this core of integrity where you wanted to do the right thing. You guys wanted to be like Jesus, and you were all really united in that, like a whole bunch of you. And I haven't seen that since, or, you know, even before as well.
Well, we were the best cohort. We just keep.
Y'all are amazing. I had this one other cohort that was just wild down in Victoria, and I had them like for my first prac, and I went back the next year, and then I went back the next year, I did my internship with them, and then I worked at the school, and like I saw them from year 9 through to year 12, and again there was like I still am in contact with a whole bunch of them.
That's good.
They're amazing people. Whole bunch of really creative souls, and again, like it was the big thing was their relationships with each other. They were respecting each other. They loved each other well. And I think that's significant. It was actually not to do with me. It's just that I was like, oh, I want in. I want in on what this is, and I want to be
Yeah.
able to receive some of it as well as give to you. But
Yeah.
and that may be key in it as well, is that I was wanting and willing to receive from you. Like it wasn't a one-way street.
Yeah, I think you saw that, but I also think we could have lost that in a way if you didn't come through.
Yeah. Okay.
Like-
yeah. Okay.
Like I think I don't doubt that we were a good grade and we did have each other's backs, but I think
And just with all the teachers in general.
yeah.
Because they're also loving and
They
supportive.
really are.
Oh, like 110%. But I think it is easy to kind of just lose that in growing up and in maturing and with that cohort
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I think because you push that so much, it just kind of clicked. We were like, yeah, okay,
This is how we do things. This
Yeah.
is our culture.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah, no teachers were afraid to like do the drilling, but it's like it's coming from a loving place, and then like later on it'll be like they'll show love.
Like the more aggressive it was almost like, oh, this is like actually good. Like it's like we actually do need this. Yeah.
And I remember calling like key individuals. I remember having a conversation again with Sunday that was it was mind-boggling to me that as a year 8 student she was able to hold space for the conversation that I had with her, calling her forward, being like, hey, are you a Christian? Was the first question. She said yes, and she knew she was in for a chat. But I just remember watching her whole demeanor change. I was like, then why? Like, because this doesn't match up with that. And there was a whole bunch of key conversations that I'd had in your cohort like that, where people would go, oh yeah, and it doesn't have to look the way that I want it to look, but I need you to align with your beliefs, and I need you to show up like that every day. Like, we're not here about the halfway.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicely done.
That
Nicely
was
put.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else to talk about?
True that.
Well,
Do you have anything?
Anything you want to ask us? If not,
I feel very conscious that I've spoken for a really long time.
We have had a long chat. Yeah.
No, but it's been
We've
good.
gotten it all out. We're squeezing you for every last drop. I feel.
No.
It's funny because I feel like there's so many little things that I feel like we could say and then just go off into a whole nother chat.
Honestly.
But it's like.
It's 11 o'clock at my house on the couch.
Yeah, literally.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep it any longer.
Okay, cool. I'll leave them.
We could. But, like, that's the problem, is we literally could for hours on end.
Like, I literally was thinking, it's not even a big thing, but, like, when you're talking about, like, the not the privilege we have. What's the word I'm looking for? The...
Curse of abundance?
I guess so?
Yeah.
No, like, I don't know. But, like, you'll get it when I'm talking about it. What we were talking about before, and it reminded me of something Andrew Tate said. Do you know Andrew Tate?
Well acquainted with Tate my stuff.
Yeah, he talked about how, he was talking about, transgender stuff, and, he was going into all of that. And he was saying, in the less fortunate parts of the world, they don't, none of that is a thing, he was saying. Or it's done differently. I really shouldn't talk about it but it's gone about differently. It's not as big of a deal because he was relating it to LA and USA. It's how they're all just super privileged, or I don't know if privilege is the right word, but you have so much time to think about things and do. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not wording it badly. Yeah.
Kind of just.
So
because
you have time to think about how you feel, think and believe, and to self-actualize is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then you've got time to consider how you want to put that out to the world.
Yeah.
And how you want to live that.
It's got a lot of deja vu, to be honest. A lot. Everything you just said, I was like, I've heard it.
Sorry.
No, I just
repeating.
This woman just won't leave.
That was weird, but please keep going. I like it.
But yeah.
And I think it's definitely a thing, but it's not just with transgender. It is with everything. And we as Christians are I'm definitely gonna go for the wheat aesthetic on my Instagram when I am doing my devotionals. Gross.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You have too much time on your hands to be thinking.
Yeah.
About
Do you think that contributes to deconstruction?
I do think. Yeah, I do.
Overthinking it, I guess.
Well, no, it's the narcissistic tendency of Western culture. Is we are spending so much time considering what we want.
Yeah.
Rather than the mentality as a basis of Western culture is I'm gonna get me what I want.
Yeah.
I have dreams. I have goals. You go to almost any other nation in the world, it is we. It's one of the things that I really love about Asian culture specifically is this legacy, the understanding of generational wealth building. It's I am doing this now so that my great grandchildren can be blessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
that is not how we live in Western culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go blow $500 on a new pair of headphones because these AirPods are just not good enough.
Yeah.
It's very accurate.
Yeah.
And it's so confronting because it's where we live every day and we're still
Yeah.
good people and all that sort of stuff. And so Andrew Tate's taken it totally out of context. It is complete. Every argument about how people want to represent themselves is irrelevant to you. It doesn't matter. It is none of your business. Your job is, can you love them? And do they know Jesus better because of how they've known you? That's it. It's so simple. And if you're judging everybody else by that standard of like, oh, hey, I don't know that you were being loving in that space. People aren't really mad when you're like, oh, did you love there? Like, I don't know. Oh. People tend to respond with, oh, yeah, I probably could have been a bit kinder.
Yeah.
Because the standard is love. And you go, oh, okay, cool. You know, if I'm speaking to somebody who is going through a transition, you go, hey, how's that feeling in your body? Is it going okay? Because seriously, Jesus would sit there and check in.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, he would just have like a conversation and want to help.
It doesn't get you any closer to anybody or to any goal when you are like putting demands on people before loving them. It's what you're taught when you are parenting. It's what you're taught in
That was
your
a really good
friendships.
quote.
You're welcome.
That was a really
You
good
can just
quote.
make a little reel out of that.
Getting that tatted. That was really good.
I am the main character. I want to see it on your forehead.
You are
That'll be Emma. Oh yeah. You are enough. I love it. Have you seen Barbie yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh well.
I don't have
It's-
time.
yeah,
To
true.
self-actualize.
But it's really good. It's really good. It's really good. There's a review in episode 10.
I'm looking forward to watching it, but it's one thing that I can wait for small screen. You know?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's not a.
That's
you
fair.
don't have to watch that one in the big screen. I feel. You can,
You should watch
Oppenheimer.
It is one that
Big screen.
I'm
Like-
prioritising over.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I will babysit for you to go and watch that.
Oh yeah.
Like, it is such a good movie. Like, wow. Yeah.
Ben would be happy. Lily would be a little bit like,
Yeah,
babysitting
really.
me.
Yeah, true. She won't get over that, will she?
No, she can't unsee the eye makeup.
One day.
Oh, they really did it, eh?
Yeah, it was so good. No, I was thinking, what was I thinking the other day? There was something that I was wanting to say, and I was thinking about it. But no,
Was it about movies or was it?
No, it was related somehow. I don't remember.
Matt can't
Done.
Damn it.
Oh, that's alright.
Part two, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
thinking
yeah, I'm liking
we're
that.
gonna get you back on sometime.
Yeah,
in the
we
future.
will.
Wait until you see people's responses. They're probably gonna be like, "Who is this
No.
crazy person who talks about Jesus too much?"
But that's good because it means it's getting out.
And also, we led this conversation very much to Jesus because we very much
The conversation.
we wanted to talk about Jesus in this
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
If you think she's a Jesus talker freak that she doesn't talk about anything else, no.
I talk a lot about
No,
Macbeth at the
we-
moment. I talk a lot about Othello.
Yeah, she talks about English
Macbeth was.
stuff as well.
Did you enjoy Macbeth?
Honestly, can't remember.
I actually loved Macbeth.
You
I
don't
thought that was
remember me
really
being
good.
Lady Macbeth
Yeah,
at the front of
no,
the
like-
stage?
Like
Like,
that's like
losing it?
pinned in my
Yeah,
brain.
it's so good.
Like I actually
I
thoroughly
actually know
enjoyed
that was
Macbeth.
good. Those
Like
sessions were good.
from you and Pashki, like could
Playing
not
Macbeth
have done
was
that.
so good.
You could not have done
That's
that any
right.
better. I actually like, looked forward to English. I was like, this is gonna be
So we're
brilliant.
doing
That
that with our year
joy.
12s this year, and this
Yeah.
will tell you how different you guys are. They are not coping. They hate it.
Like when you do the
Doing the whole cohort thing.
no, I actually
Hate
like
it
I
so
I
much.
really
like it.
benefited from that. I think.
Yeah.
Well, it was we know it's the fastest way, like statistically, to get it out because we see the huge rise in like everybody's scores across the
Yeah,
board.
and it just felt so inclusive.
Everybody hates it. So, it's just
It's weird.
Yeah.
different people.
I don't know, yeah.
Different people, different things.
Yeah, yeah.
Different strokes for different folks.
Well, guys who are listening to this and you're in year 12 or you're in year 11, 10, you know, and you're coming up to it,
Year 11s are not loving it either, to be honest.
love it. Start to
You
love
do it
it.
together
It's
and
good.
love it.
Simple as that. Alright, I think we'll end it there.
We'll end it there, unless you have anything you wanted to add or ask or.
If you think of what you were going to say, then
We'll put it on
we'll
the
do a
story.
whole other episode.
Because it'll take us that long to talk about.
Yeah, true. I'm sure we'll go off another place from it. We'll see.
Fine. I was thinking about bringing my little box of questions. So I was like,
Oh,
Is that the
that would be
We're Not Really
a-
Strangers?
We're Not Really Strangers,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had someone say that you should do that for like a podcast or something like that, and I was like,
I'll bring it to
that
you. You
is
guys can do it
brilliant.
with each other.
Yeah,
It's
It's
on.
so
That is
It's on.
brilliant.
We're doing that sometime.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right,
someone
you-
did say
Yeah.
that.
Because I got the friendship pack if you two want to do it together.
Oh, that'd be
So-
interesting.
Gosh,
Alright.
something.
I actually took it with me to my best friend's house on last weekend. We were doing a cute little sleepover.
Yeah.
Yes, we're in our
That's
30s.
every night.
Yes, I still do this. Her husband really lovingly just sits on the side of the couch and listens to us. He's so patient with us. Yeah, I was up there and we did the friendship pack and we're like, this is just how we talk to each other.
Nice. That's good though, is it?
Yeah.
We should do it.
That would be a
good
podcast. That would be something.
That's fun. And I reckon you could break it down into like little questions and then ask people for responses too.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh.
And you can get to
It's
know
so
their
random.
days.
Done.
Hiring
Yeah.
manager, like manager.
It is. You literally walk away from me every time with ideas. You're welcome.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
Anyway.
we won't hold you any
Thank you
longer.
so much for coming on. We love
It's
you.
been an honour. It's been a blessing.
I'm sure everyone else loved it too. Guys, if you liked this episode, give it a like. Subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. I feel like we've never actually said that at the end of an episode.
Yeah, probably not.
We always just
You
say
should
bye.
definitely subscribe. I do.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
regrets.
We've got
If she
almost
did,
like
you should.
top. I won't say number one because my mum is a big fan as well. So,
And fair. She should be.
but top 3
But
fan
I'm his
right
mom,
now.
so it's fine.
True. Yeah.
Alright guys, thanks for listening, watching. We love you, and we'll see you next week for another
And
episode.
we'll see you in the next one. See you then. Peace. Bye.
There it is.
See you later.
Yeah.